Well, welcome everyone to the Badge and Beyond. Hi, Jen. Thanks for having us.
That's okay. Thanks for having me.
G'day, buddy. How you going?
Good, as always.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to go through.
Sorry, that was weird. I've got to go back and say that was weird. But remember, this is our second episode today.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm all about being real.
They don't need to know. But
They don't need to know. Okay, you want to keep them in the dark. You want to keep our audience in the dark. People, I am there for you.
All right.
Maybe we should
re-illuminate.
start again. Yeah.
I just want to preface by saying I got hated on by Anthony because in Jen's corner, I said, "Hey guys, how are you going?" And he said, "Don't act like we haven't been here for the last 2 hours."
I don't know how he went American in like 22, but okay.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Well, today we thought we'd illustrate some interesting cases, and Anthony's got a pretty cool one that he investigated regarding an escapee.
Yeah. Look, the cool thing about it is, first of all, in the cops, especially as a detective, I love a good manhunt. There's just not enough of them, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Good manhunt, hard to come across.
Yep.
But very good fun. So I was working out at Maroubra, which has Long Bay Jail as part of its jurisdiction, and I think it was January 2006.
What was your role in those days?
So I was a junior detective in the office, but at Maroubra those times was pretty busy.
Yep.
So we were often, if we weren't kind of second, we were generally second or third in the commands for crime, etc. So it was like Bankstown, Lake Illawarra, and Maroubra, mixing it up for top three. Yep. I don't think we ever got first, but we usually came second or third.
Yep.
So fairly busy command, and I think it was a Wednesday morning, got a call for an escapee from the jail. Now, I didn't go down. There was like another on-call team that went down.
What security prison is Long Bay?
Well, they have multiple. So to explain corrections so people understand, you have, in a complex, there's multiple jails.
Correct.
Does that make sense? So you have like the outer ring of fence line, but there's individual different sections that are separate to each other, that are different jails and have different levels of security.
Yeah.
So in particular, the escapee in this instance was a guy called Robert Cole. Now Robert's mid-30s, and probably the reason we found out he made his break for it was his solicitor and he were probably not as smart as they thought he was. Now, he had a criminal history. He got put inside for, I believe, and I'm not 100% certain of the circumstances, but I believe it was a sexual assault or sexual act during a break-and-enter. So basically a home invasion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty significant.
Quite significant.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to beat the rap, he made effectively what would be otherwise known as an insanity plea.
Ah, right.
The thought process being, and what he said was, he was in a drug psychosis. He didn't know what he was doing, didn't mean to do what he did, and therefore, under the insanity plea, was at the governor's leisure, and was going to go inside to the mental health institution in the jail, and would then be released once he was reformed.
Right.
Now, the understanding we got later on, spoiler alert, I did catch him, but the understanding we got was that his solicitor said, go in there, clean yourself up, do drug rehab, you'll be fine, you'll be out in 3 to 6 months. Well, that didn't happen because he's at the governor's leisure, and the problem with people that are insane, they can act very sane once they're even when they're insane. So there's a long period of time that needs to be served before they're happy that you're no longer a risk.
Yep.
So effectively you go up and keep asking to be released, and the governor just gets to say nope, or some kind of board or committee.
Yep.
So he'd been through a couple of these, and imagine thinking he can do 3 months, and he's done a couple of years.
Yeah.
And no sight of the outside coming to him.
Yeah.
So he decides he's gonna make a break for it. Now, side note is his sister, I think it was his sister, is a certainly not an A grade actress, or probably not a B grade, C or below.
Yep.
No disrespect, C or below actress, Australian actress. which becomes a little bit relevant later. So this guy has escaped prison, and they've only worked it out. They don't know exactly what time he's left, but they do the morning head count, and he's absent. And we send two guys down there. One's a detective sergeant, one's a plainclothes constable, and they're doing the job, and they come back and they're working in the morning. And myself and my partner, we're just doing our own things, right? We get called in by the investigations manager, and they're like, "Boys, this team, not exactly our most cracking team.
That's a nice way to start.
Yeah. We need you to go in and support." We're like, "Do you want us to lead or support?" Lead, but make it look like you're supporting. Okay. So I was very lucky. I had a partner then who was senior to me, but extremely thorough. Very, very thorough individual, great investigator. So we end up working on this case, and as it turns out, only a week or 2 weeks before, there'd been escapee, or a couple of guys escaped out of Silverwater. So the state government is kind of under a bit of pump now. You've got people escaping from prisons. What's going on? You're looking like an idiot. So the robbery and serious crime squad sent out a strike force, or sent out a team which consisted of 2 people. And the corrective services investigations unit, which is made up of seconded cops, came out and assisted, and it was us. So sometimes you'd think you've got an escaped predator on the loose. You'd have like massive resources thrown at it. Even with all the state government pressure, there was like 8 of us doing it. And the robbery guys didn't turn up till late, and honestly, no disrespect, they were good guys, but there was so much of their work was just setting up Eagle Eye and progress reports and getting this and that sorted. They never hit the road. Like, they were never out on the road. There's just these 2 guys in the office. And in a manhunt, it's all about getting out there. Now, when you start going back through this stuff, it becomes funny, because there's just things that the public assume that you think are obvious that people would do. So here's a guy that is in all prison greens. Turns out he's gone over at least 2 fences that are very high. And the fences, he's managed to have something to help him get over the first one, but he's lost it on the first fence. So coming over the second one, which is, I don't know, how high would the fences be at a prison? They're close to like a 2-story house, if not
it's high.
more. Yeah, like the outer rim. So this guy's come off, and he's actually done his ankle when he's come down on the...
Yeah, as you would.
Yeah, as you would, right?
It's not your
He's
knee.
cut up by the razor wire and stuff.
Yep.
He's hobbling along the back streets of Maroubra, trying to head north at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Council garbage men saw him.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything.
Oh, they're like, oh, look.
They're just like, oh, yeah. It wasn't until it hit the news, like the 11 o'clock news or whatnot. It was late on the first day we got a call saying, oh, I didn't think it was really important, but I saw that guy going through the back streets, moving north, limping, bleeding, all like different parts all over him.
Wow.
Wearing a green tracksuit. And it was like, you're a block away from the prison, and you didn't think, like, yeah. Anyway. So there's that. Anyway, we move into it, and we really don't have a lot to go on. This guy doesn't have any close family. Actually, one of the good things was his family were actually against him because he'd harassed them. He was kind of estranged. But we don't have any of the stuff we normally have. You know, he's not been at a house. He's not married. He doesn't have a phone. We've got prison photos, but obviously he's going to try to change his look. And we don't have any idea of where he's going to be connected to. The only thing we had was a bank account. And obviously the bank account gets money withdrawn the first day. So we're looking and we're trying to get a movement pattern on this guy, trying to get everything together, but we really, and at the same time do the investigation of how he got out, right? And who he's connected with. And because he's been inside for a while, there's not even the intelligence on cops to get him.
But even when he's got it out, what can he take with him?
Well,
Like, does he
right.
have his own personal? Like, does he have a card? Does he have a wallet? Does he have anything?
Yeah, he's somehow got a card, and I don't know how, why, when, or what. I assume because they can do buy-ups and things like that. That's
Right.
why. But I
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, I'm not that au fait with the
Yeah.
corrective services system that I can say.
Yeah.
But he certainly had a card. So we're really kind of left with nothing, and we're scrounging around, and the only thing we've got is this card. Now the card gets used at Bondi Junction first day in an ATM.
Yep.
And again, we're looking for this guy, and we end up going to speak to it was really funny because early on in the piece, the actress, sister, cousin, whatever, comes to light. And we end up putting we've got a surveillance team available to us. And we know that she's the only connection that's come forward and said, I know him. So we send a team out to go and interview her. The surveillance team are watching her place all day, before and after, and we go out effectively hoping that when we knock on the door, if he's there, he'll bail out the back.
Yes.
No such luck.
Yep.
And she's cooperative in the sense that she talks to us, but not cooperative in the sense that she gives us anything that's useful. So everybody's concept is, so far, that's leading the investigation, we're just going to watch her because she's the only connection we have. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I feel like I'm sitting on my hands. So day 2, I go and grab myself and my partner, and I find the estranged family. And we drive out, and these guys were amazing. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
So even though they hadn't spoken to him in years, because he had harassed them, they knew him well. So you could ask him all the questions. What sort of drugs does he do? What days does he do them? Where was he getting his drugs from? Did he have a connection, or was he just going, like, picking up off the street kind of thing? Would he likely be armed? Who were his girlfriends? All the rest of this. So we start pages and pages of notes. I think I spent like 2 hours sitting in their lounge room talking to them. And these guys were really fearful because he'd stalked them before. They're like, we were able to offer something by getting the local cops out there to do patrols and do whatever, and keep them informed, because these guys like locking their house, closing their blinds. I remember turning up in the afternoon, all their blinds and everything's closed, everything, all the cars are in the garage, and the whole family's there, and they're super scared of this guy. So we get all this detail, and it becomes kind of clear that he just buys either from generally around the cross, and he's mad into heroin when he can, and he doesn't have heaps of money, doesn't have heaps of people to supply him money. So now you're starting to think, okay, he's going to be destined to be doing armed robberies and things. At the same time, the surveillance team is watching actress while she's there. And all of a sudden there's all this activity if she's moving. And she's out and she's driving around, drives from her house in the leafy North Shore suburbs down into the city, going left, going right. And okay, she's doing like some anti-surveillance kind of stuff. There's got to be a meet going on. And we're all like, this is, we're all trying to move in. And then all of a sudden she gets out, she's got a package in her hand, walks into a building, walks out 30 minutes later, package still in hand, taxi comes up, package goes in the taxi. Now they're like, okay, what do you want us to do? Do we stay with her? Do we follow the taxi? It's like, and you hate doing it. You hate splitting a team. Split the team.
Yeah.
Because you got to see because what's in the package?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on?
Is the package is it cash? Is it like information? Is it weapons?
Yep.
Is it basically just trying to keep us away from where he is? You've got all these things going through your mind, like, is she a red herring?
Yeah.
Is she in it with him?
Yeah.
And I think she was in an office building that had a lot of lawyers too, so we're like, okay, is she working, looking at the defence and trying to get him something? So they follow the taxi, and it goes to Channel 7, I think. I think it was Channel 7. You're like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
Right, this is weird. And then, you know, she goes back home. So everybody's like, mate, he's got to be at the house, right? Like, there's only one place he could be. And everybody's like, they're still kind of watching her. And I'm like, based on everything I've found, I don't think it's... Myself and my partner, like, there's got to be another way.
Yeah.
And then we find out on the Thursday afternoon he's made another transaction at Bondi Junction. I originally thought the Bondi Junction transaction was just him transiting out.
Yeah.
But, okay, is he around Bondi? But I also know he's connected to King's Cross. And she's way up in the North Shore, but she's coming to the city.
Yeah, it's a bit of hike. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And again, you've got nothing.
Are you getting pictures of him when he's doing these withdrawals?
Yeah, really slow. Because back in those days, even though it's 2006, remember the big, fat, black and white cameras all the banks had?
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to get CCTV off them was terrible, and the timing.
Yeah.
And trying to get that off ATMs was pretty dodge.
Yeah.
So all we knew was the ATM and that. And anyway, everybody's following the actress, and then that night in the news, she's done basically a stand up to camera. Oh, look, you know, Robert, we really need you to hand yourself in. You know, we can work these things out.
Oh, no.
Oh, mate. Everyone's like, oh, we've spent all these resources following her, and really it's a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
You know, it was so frustrating. And Friday morning, I remember we had a meeting, and the detective sergeant that was in the lead, not from robbery, from the local, he's like, how about we get him to, we get the card cancelled, so when he does that, when he puts the card in, it sucks it in, he'll go into the bank to see what happened to his card. I'm like,
Nice.
he's a felon.
He's a...
He knows he's on the run.
He's gonna...
This guy is on the news every night.
Gotta get the hell out of there.
Like...
and start ripping off people.
Yeah, and as day goes by, he's on the news, and they're still like, and people are ringing the commander's getting pressure, like, where are you? We're doing like twice a day briefings to the commissioner's office of what we're doing and how close we are, because the premier's copping heat over this, and the commissioner's getting hit up by the premier, and corrections, they're like, they would throw anything at us if they could help. But they're all about keeping them in, not finding them again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So Friday morning, I'm having an argument with his detective sergeant about whether we get the card to go into the machine or not. And you never have that point where you're like, it's kind of like telling someone to put a seatbelt on, but they don't understand. I'm having this argument with him, like, no, but he will go in, and then we'll know he's there, and then we can send the local resource. I'm like, you put the card in, he's not going in.
No.
And how do you know you don't get Beryl, who's the casual for the bank, walk in and doesn't know that who he is or what's going on? Like, there's too many unknown variables. This way, he keeps using the bank account.
And you keep tracking him.
We're tracking him.
Yep.
We might be a day behind, but we know generally what direction.
Absolutely.
So he wasn't really loving that, but we're all out of ideas. And at this point in time, you're really just grasping at whatever will work, right?
Yeah.
So I said to my partner, I said, this is bullshit, right? And about that time, just after the meeting, we got another notification. He's back in Bondi Junction and taking more money out of the bank.
Is he going to the same kind of
No,
banks?
he's going to different
moving
ATMs,
around?
but in Bondi Junction.
Yeah.
And so people thought I was an idiot then. I said to my partner, I'm like, we've got nothing. There's nowhere to go. You and me, let's go map out every ATM in Bondi Junction.
Yep.
And then we do our best to find a place and sit off it.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And I said to the other guys, this is what we want to do. The robbery guys weren't interested. The correction guys, like, no, the correction guys were all just about like hunting and getting out there. I'm like, yeah, but where?
Yeah, what are you hunting?
But what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They were good guys, don't get me wrong, but they also felt I think they were feeling the frustration with the lack of...
Was he maximum withdrawal each time?
Yeah, there wasn't much in it. So it wasn't like the maximum amount, I think, but it was only a few $100s each time.
Yeah.
But I think it was one of those things where he thought he wasn't going to max out the card. So you know. And there was that concern before that maybe the actress relative was going to put money in the account.
Mm.
So I spent an afternoon going through. There was, in Bondi Junction alone, just in the CBD, there were at least 21 different ATMs.
Yep.
And here's me and this other guy walking around. Like, we looked sketchy as hell because we're just in plain clothes and ready to do surveillance or whatever else. And we're looking at ATMs and making notes and whatever else. And we come back and we planned out, and then we're like, okay, we want to do this tomorrow. Like, Saturday morning, we know that everything happens between kind of, I think it was 8 and 10. It keeps hitting this.
In the morning.
In the morning, right?
Yeah.
And not a bad time because it's, you know, not as many people around, not getting, just not what you'd expect from him. Cops generally start, like in detective's office, 6 or 7, but they've got to get their briefings done and things. So if you're hitting a place at 8, and, you know, yeah. And it had lots of public transport, so lots of buses, lots of taxis, right on the railway station. And God knows where he was staying, like lots of units and hotels and motels. So we had no idea where he was coming from. So we mapped this out and like, this is where we're going tomorrow. And reluctantly, at the end of the day, everybody's like, we've got nothing else. The robbery guys are like, oh, we'll keep doing the eagle eye and whatever else. We're tied up. You guys go out. So the plan eventually came with 4 of us in and around Bondi Junction in 2 pairs. And the corrective services guys were going to float around King's Cross because that was the only other place we had any information. And if we didn't have anything from Bondi Junction in the afternoon, we'd move to King's Cross and just saturate with 6 people. So I'm sitting there and we're moving around and it's 10 o'clock comes and I say to my partner, he's not here. We've missed him. He's gone. And my partner's like, Macca, where else are we going to go? What else are we going to do? We've got nothing else. Let's just sit here, right? So here we are, him and I sitting out in Bondi Junction Mall. He's got the paper, I've got a paper, drinking tea and coffee. I didn't drink coffee at that time. Just looking like 2 random guys sitting there talking, watching the passing parade. And I'm watching the time, just going, oh, let's just go back. We're done. He's like, no, just patience. Kind of felt like he was like the Yoda of the day. He was like, patience, patience, Macca. And it was probably like 11:15 or 11 o'clock. And one of the other crew that was circulating the car going, I think we saw him. I think we saw him just coming out of the railway station. And we look up and I see him. He's this guy, like it's January and it's hot. And he's wearing like, you remember those old nylon kind of tracksuits, like the parachute material tracksuits? Yeah. And he's like hobbling down with some woman that was clearly a street worker on his arm, being super loud.
Well, that's where the money's being spent.
Yeah, that's where the money's being spent. And get this, a cap, sunglasses, and a boot polish beard. He'd got black boot polish and put it on his face.
Yep. Nice.
And obviously just thought he was home and hosed because he didn't see us coming from a mile away. And we were on him, and there was because of his violent offences and because of the fact he'd escaped, there was just no, like, it wasn't you're under arrest.
No.
It was a takedown.
Yeah.
Hard. I remember I swept him and I didn't did it like an ankle sweep, totally forgetting he had a busted ankle.
Oh, but I bet he remembered it.
Oh, he remembered it hard because the poor guy landed and then he's like, oh, my ankle. I was like, oh, yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't sorry so much at the time. I felt sorry after I got the bracelets on. And so here's all these people like taking photos and people are gathering around because they're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, just random people jumping in the sky.
Yeah, and, the prostitutes like screaming your head off, the police harassment, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, but the story gets slightly better because we take him back and we've got to interview him. But More than that, corrective services now has a lot of questions to answer. So the backstory is, how did he get out?
Yeah.
How does a guy that's in a mental health institution, particularly a criminally insane institution, make it out?
Yeah.
Undetected until roll call. Like they've got people on watchtowers, armed, they've got CCTV, and how the hell does that happen? Yeah. Now, I've had those... when I joined the cops, someone said to me, never trust corrective services.
Ooh.
So I was like, why? But what I learnt later on, and particularly from the corrective service investigators, was it's not corrective service guys you can't trust, but there's so many of them that get leaned on by criminals.
Yeah.
And, are extorted and threatened and whatever
Yes,
else.
correct.
You never know
Correct.
what's coming, what they're under. So there were all these questions. The questions got worse because the backstory is this guy had gone on a crash diet and lost 14 kilos in a couple of weeks. That didn't raise any alarm bells for anybody. He dug his way through a wall to get out of his cell. Now, his cell was more like a room.
This is like the Great Escape.
It is. Like, imagine, you have those bars and grills that are kind of attached to the outside, so they're not in the window frame, but they're attached on the outside.
Yeah.
So this guy had gotten, I think it was a fork and a knife and just about anything else he could, even paddle pop sticks, and he'd slowly...
Like the mortar?
Yeah, the mortar. He'd taken the mortar out of the bricks in the first line underneath the window. And, basically measured it and lost enough weight, because he wasn't a huge guy, that he could actually compress his chest and his head, and, to look at it, you couldn't think anybody could get through it. But he got through, a brick to 2 bricks worth.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. Now, I don't even know how... he was a skinny guy, but...
Oh, mate.
You lost 14 kilos. You worked for months ripping out that mortar and flushing it down the toilet.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, the guy in the cell next to him kept complaining that he was making too much noise. And he complained to the guards, he's like, I don't know what that guy's doing, but geez, he's keeping me up all night. Make him stop. No one paid any attention.
Yeah, you can hear that scraping.
Yeah. You imagine how it must be in the dead of night in prison, outside of the other things you might hear, but when you're in the mental health ward and you've all got brick walls between you and whatever else, and you just hear these things going and he's tapping away and doing whatever, and this guy's... The other guy was a legit...
It's an impressive commitment, I've got to tell you.
It is, but I mean, when you got nothing else to do, and so the guy that's complained has legitimate mental health issues, and he's like, this is driving him insane, to the point that when they're on a yard break, the crook Robert actually goes to him and says, "I'll give you tell me." I think he was into lollies, he was mad keen for lollies. I'll use all my buy-ups for lollies for you as long as you shut up. So he stopped complaining to corrections.
I was going to say, where was that strategy? Nice.
When he squeezes through, he gets out. Not only does he get out, he's manufactured a pillow that he's stitched up with a length of cord or rope, so he can throw it up to get over the barbed wire. Pretty ingenious.
Yeah, not bad.
Except it got caught on the razor wire on the first go, so that's why he got all cut up in the second go. So I believe the head of security and corrections got stood down over that matter. I don't know if he ever got reinstated. But we've got this guy, and now this guy's made it so much worse for himself, because once you're an escapee, you're high risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're super high risk. So he's now going to Supermax.
Yep.
And I remember when they
it would have added to his...
Oh, yeah. So he got more years.
Yeah. Good luck asking the governor now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he got more years. When they came to get him, it was like a SWAT team. It was the corrective services, emergency unit guys turn up, all big guys, all shotguns and whatever else, three 4-wheel drive convoy. I'm like, dude, have you seen this guy?
Yeah.
You don't need all this. They're like, no, No. He's made an ass out of
Yeah, that's it.
the corrective services.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's just done to himself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was just so, there was so much kind of politics involved. Now, if you know anything about the cops, you've heard of a guy called Bob Inkster. Lovely man. You don't want to be in an interview with that man because he is a great investigator and he will make you talk.
Yep.
Not through coercive means by any means. I'm not saying he was beating people into confessions, but around the traps, even for me, I knew who Bob Inkster was.
Yep.
There's stories I heard. He's just this imposing figure whose mere presence kind of made crooks tremble. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yep.
old school detective. While we've got him in there and we're just doing the paperwork and processing him, in comes Bob Inkster, and he's retired from the cops. I'm like, the hell is going on here? He's been commissioned to come on board to do a special inquiry for corrections as to how this guy got out,
Yep.
if there was any corruption involved.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm like, you're letting Bob Inkster into an interview room with that guy? Like, I need to see that.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we got the information about how he'd managed to get all of that together. And ultimately, I was right. It turns out he was staying in King's Cross in one of those dodgy hotel rooms that rent for like $10 a night with
Yeah.
all manner of stuff you wouldn't want in them.
Yeah,
And we
well,
did a search
well,
warrant on the room.
He needed more bang for his buck.
Oh,
Literally.
mate. He basically went to King's Cross, hooked up with this woman, and then just like put it all up his arm.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And when we got him, he said, mate, this was my last day. I was about to head for the North Coast after today. I was like, oh. So a little bit of luck and a lot of just footwork
Yeah. No,
gets you there.
great job. Great job.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. But look, we were talking just before though, Danny. You said you had something similar where, like, you know, sometimes something doesn't go right or doesn't go the way you want it to.
Yeah.
And the risk assessments around that.
Yeah.
Tell the audience about that.
So, I was in a team called the Intelligence Response Team, the IRT, and we're mainly in plain clothes. And it was a really, really good crew. It was one of the better parts of my career at the time, and I did it for a short stint, and I got to lead that unit for a little while as well. And it was one of those things where it's the last 20 minutes of the shift. You know, I was on a day shift, so I think we were finishing off about 5. We used to start at like 10 in the morning or something. And a Crime Stoppers report had come in, and the intel officer, who also was just about to walk out the door, he goes, "Hey, Danny, just got this. What do you want to do?" So I have a look at it, and it's like information about like a cigarette shop that's going to get held up. It's going to get robbed.
Yeah, like an armed robbery.
Yeah. And the Crime Stoppers report was the informant was sitting at a cafe, and these group of men, 2 or 3, were discussing that they will go in tomorrow and hold them up because they've always at around whatever time there's only one person there. It's an older lady. They don't pay attention, and it was going to in a bit of depth, and so this
It wasn't just banter.
no, and so this sort of good citizen decided, I don't like the way this sounds, and I'm going to give Crime Stoppers a call. Now, the intel was so good that it actually named the shop, which of course happened to be in our patrol, right? And the shopping complex that it was in is really small. So we're like, okay, this is interesting. It's like those little sort of marketplaces that you
Yeah.
have around suburbia, right? Very small. There's probably, back then, besides like a Woolies, I think there was maybe 12 boutique shops kind of thing. Very small. Like a newsagent, a butcher, some eateries, and that's basically it. And this cigarette shop right next to Woolies, right? And I'm like, if this is legit, we could probably get these people. So I had just someone else working with me in the unit, and he goes, "What do you think?" I go, "Let's do it tomorrow. Let's see what happens." So I went to the boss and said, "Hey, we got this," and he's like, "There's no one available, whatever. See if you can grab someone from the D's." So I go over, and only the detective sergeant was left in the office at that time. I said, "Hey, I've got this," and he goes, "Oh, this could be all right. If it's on, it's on." He goes, "All I've got is him and one other detective." So like you got the it's rare that you'd have the sergeant come out kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, but he's kind of old school. So I'm like, it's me and my offsider, and him and his, and that's all we've got. 4 people to bring down these 3 guys doing an armed robbery. So they didn't say if they were going to use guns, knives. We didn't know. And again, this is really early back in the day, so it would not, I guarantee wouldn't have been approved in this day and age from a risk assessment. The drama is we're not equipped because we're not actually using UCs or proper undercover police. So we've still got the same crappy plainclothes holsters. The biggest problem was the police radio.
Oh,
Now, the boss wouldn't let us do it without having the radios on us. Because I'm like, my idea was myself and my female operative come as a couple, right, with our shopping, and we're basically going to be right there. So there was like a bench right opposite the cigarette store. So I'm like, me and her will sit here with the shopping trolley, and my plan was to have our firearms in the bag. Right, so if I needed to bring it out, I'd just take it out, because to put it on me was the way I wanted to sit in a way that he could never pick that it was us, right? And the Ds would be sitting outside monitoring the car as it comes in, and then they would sort of come in as cover as the offenders go in, because it's such a small place. You're going to notice 3 guys getting out of a car to come in, if that makes sense. So we're like, nah, long story short, they wanted us to have the earpiece. Now, how dodgy does the earpiece look? Like, where do you go when you're sitting down and there's an earpiece?
And you got to have long hair to cover your ear if you're going to do it.
Exactly. So we're like, all right. So the female operative did exactly that. She's got the earpiece covering it. I've got the radio on me, but I'm not. I've got the little hip. I've tucked it into my pocket because I don't want to do this. You only need the radio to call it at the end of the day if anything's happening. But then the gig is up, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to sit there listening. But he was insistent on having the radio on me, on all of us at the time. And I'm like, no, I don't think it's going to. So then I do what I have to do, put the holster around the back. I've got like a little jacket over it. And I'm sitting there with my missus, right, having this conversation about the shopping. Lo and behold, 2 guys come in. And they're walking towards the cigarette shop. Now, I'm like, we're right here. The shop's right there. That's literally maybe the distance from me to the door. So let's say 2.5 meters. We're that close to the entry. And we'd already replaced all the money from the cashier's office. So if she gives up, whatever, with fake notes, right? No problem. We're all right to go. But the lady's scared, right? The one that's working there, sort of thing. So we're like, she knows that we've declared that we're cops. I did the job with her. Like, it'll be me and someone else. I told her there's police everywhere. Like, you'll be fine. Don't worry, And my issue was her giving it up. I'm like, whatever you do not look at me. Don't look at us. Do what you'd normally do. Like, you're trying. And I know it's very hard for someone to do this situation.
Also, 2 guys walking into a tobacconist, not exactly unusual either, So, no. But she's probably jumping at shadows too.
Exactly. So these 2 guys come through. And just as they're about to walk into the tobacconist, this stupid headset, right, stops working and it broadcasts loud. So you hear police radio.
Oh.
Right? So what had happened was that she shifted, the connector onto that's come off, and it's just broadcast. Whatever, transport something, it's, banks down cars, 35, blah, 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 blah. And I remember this, when it does that, I look at the guy, he looks at me, taps his mate on the shoulder and walks out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm assuming that was them. She gets up to go, I hold her leg like to keep it to them, because I don't want to guarantee that what he thinks it is. Because maybe he's like, he never saw anything. He just would have heard a brief sound kind of thing. And I did the old,
look around, like, where did that come from?
What the hell's that? But when our eyes met, he's sus something's not right. So I just stayed sitting down, and he kept looking over his shoulder. I didn't walk out behind him. So I tell her to tell the Ds. So they broadcast to the detective's car outside. They're coming out. Problem is,
They think they're coming out after they've done the armed robbery.
they've left their radio inside the car.
Oh.
They've come inside the shopping because that,
They've
and fairly
seen
so, they've come in after the guys just in case. But what the guys did, they went through the bathroom and out the exit and out the shopping centre. So
Yeah.
they didn't come back through the exit. We don't have enough resources to cover all the exits.
Cover everything, yeah.
So this is where we are. And so then it's a mad rush to the security control room upstairs to see the CCTV on where this car went. And by the time you've done all that,
Yeah, forget about it.
they're long gone. And as they've driven out, we're like, okay, we'll get the reg over the car. No plates on the car.
Oh.
It was like the most frustrating thing, but no one got robbed, no one got hurt.
yeah.
You know, maybe we all, say
Could
that
be, yeah.
could have been
been,
an absolute, disaster. But it's just, it was one of those what could have beens. We're like, we could have actually
Yeah, and that's what
grabbed
you want.
armed robbers in the act.
Yeah.
Like, and you think to yourself, that would have been really cool. But in risk assessment wise, that would have been really tough because two of them had firearms. There's only two of us.
Yeah.
By the time we got our shit together and maybe drawn, and he could have done something stupid, then you're in a position where you have to shoot someone.
Yeah.
It's a really close environment. The old lady's on the other side.
See,
All
that
hindsight.
changed over the
Yeah.
years. I remember operations like that where, in the Ds we get this information from gigs and they'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is great, we're going to go do it. And they're like, no, go have a talk to the shop, tell them to close down. Like, okay, they closed down for the day, but what about the next day?
Yep.
Well, do we have any intelligence the next day, or we work the job up and do whatever?
Yep.
I remember one job, and it always seems to happen. I had one job where it was a ram raid on a shop, and they just threw us in uniform. I'm sitting there with like a hoodie that I'd worn to work over my uniform in an unmarked car,
Yep.
and they're turning up in a Rexy, and I'm like, oh, what's the code word? Oh, the code word will be the job's on. And they had scanners, like, of course,
Yeah.
they know what that's going to be.
Yep.
So I remember it was the only time I've done a foot pursuit with a WRX, which lasted for about 5 seconds until I got around the corner and saw them disappearing around the next corner,
Yep.
just to say where they were going. You have these when you're working on these jobs and you're chasing crooks and they do things. And of course, sometimes they're just robbery offenders are the worst. They just ring up their crew and say, "Okay, we're going, right? I'm short on Ash K."
What could that be?
Yeah. We need to do an objet. Okay, so, but where is it? Who's it going to be?
Yep.
Who's on the team?
Yeah.
I remember a story where they're following this team around. They're like listening to all these different comms, and then out of nowhere they're like, "Yeah, we're going to go do a job on this hotel." So they ring up. The investigators are monitoring the phones, but they're like, "We've got no one to go. Like, you need to. These guys doing armed robberies with firearms. There's like 4 of them, WRXs.
Yep.
Like, you need a proper TOU team to go after it."
Yep.
So, tactical operations unit team, SWAT team, for those people that don't know what that is.
Yep.
They're like, "What do we do?" They ring the duty officer, and he's like this old guy, like only, crotchety old duty officer, actually an acting duty officer, actual sergeant. And he was like, I think he was close to his late 50s, looked like he'd been in his 70s, you know what I mean? They ring him like, "Oh, what can we do?" He's like, "I'll just go and do some RBT out the front, mate." He's this old inspector doing RBT one at a time with the lights on.
Love
and
it.
they're like, they obviously drove past because they came back and there's a phone call going, "How'd you go?" And it's like, "No, cops are out the front doing RBT." Like,
Yep.
Can you believe it?
Yep.
Yeah. But just some things never go to plan. Sometimes a little bit of luck goes a long way.
Yeah.
And the best laid plans will always get shat on just by
100%.
circumstance,
Mate, and there's always surprises. Like, and as I'm sitting there listening to all the, I'm just rehashing sort of memories in my head of weird things that we kind of did, and the different tactics to catch someone trying to flee. And I remember one stage it was just full pursuits. Like every second or third shift was going off, and we did. Well, after this idiot, one day shift and in general duties, and he had an outstanding warrant. Anyway, crew goes to the house, knocks on the door, and they asked. In those days, we were in uniform supporting the plainclothes sort of team, and they were doing a door knock on this guy. So we're like, all right, we'll all cover the back and all this kind of. We did like a block, so we had a bit of a perimeter running for him. And I remember there was had a doggy on air just in case if we need anything. Anyway, knocks on the door, bang. Sure enough, they call it. He's running. He's jumped the back fences, and I don't know, he got past that first crew somehow, and so he's just jumping fences, and he's coming towards my way where I was with my partner, and I was very junior then. And I'm looking, thinking to myself, I'd really like a better vantage point from where I am. So I saw this. I could probably scale this roof, this house, go up had like a brick siding, and jump onto the roof. And I reckon from now I can see the entire block. So I'm like, all right. So I did. So scale this fence, go up the brickwork, and jump onto the roof. And my partner's, I remember her thinking,
Danny's lost it.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, just bear with me. Anyway, so then I can see everything, everyone's backyard, like it's tops. And I'm watching this guy just jump from fence to fence, and then he stops. So I'm calling it now on the radio. This is where he is. But I'm trying to work out where the hell this house would be. Because all I can see is the rear of
The roof, yeah.
It's not easy to call addresses by...
You don't know which way the numbers are moving up
Correct.
and down the street.
You know, and then you're in that, all right, north, east, south, and you started now, okay, well, it's kind of the street north from where I am, and like I'm having a full friggin' navigational conversation with you and trying to keep an eye on this guy. And I'm just like, everything will be good as long as he doesn't notice me, right? So then he's holed up in one yard, and he's just staying there. I'm like, all right, this is cool. He just doesn't know, he can't see me. He's got his back to me. I got so frustrated with trying to call out. I don't know where the thing is. So I've called out to my partner, what's the street, 2 streets this way? Like I'm just pointing with my hand to her. So then she screams it back to me. So then I scream out the street, and then that guy just turns and looks right at me. And I'm like, crap. And off he goes again, mate.
Gone.
He's gone.
You've never seen someone as fast as someone being chased, right? They can just run forever.
And that's the thing, you get caught up in the moment and you do some silly things.
But you know,
we got him eventually. Like it wasn't a bad ending, but in the end I was like, an idiot. I should have kept quiet. Like,
there's certainly not and it's age and experience and maturity and better lay plans next time and all the rest of that. Yeah, sometimes it's just in law enforcement investigation, it's doing things the right way. Working hard, putting in the shoe leather, the elbow grease, so to speak. But sometimes you just need a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
A little bit of luck goes a long way.
Yeah.
And it's just how things progress. You'd be surprised how often a little bit of good luck or bad luck turns an entire investigation or outcome for something.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as we go on, I'm sure the nostalgia will bring us back some cases. But that was a great story, Anthony.
Thank you, guys. We do intend to bring some more of our in-depth investigations. I know some people have asked for that, and I think it's really good to hopefully open people up to what goes into a case. It's not all smooth sailing. There's a lot behind the scenes. It's certainly not what they show on TV.
Well, we've definitely benefited from making the mistakes back then.
Yes.
So that now our clients in the private investigation will get the gain from lessons learned.
Indeed. Well, as always, a big thank you to our sponsors, Precision Integrity Services, our company, Danny and I. So that's you can find us at privateinvestigatorsydney.com.au, and of course, Danny,
IC Technology, the best in managed IT services at ictechnology.com.au. See you next time.
See you later.